Today I circulated along with the notes. If I don't know whether many of you have even seen it. At the end of the notes, I have put one note uh, on one example, which I will show you, which I'll show you in meditation 3. But this note I have not explained. I have put in the form of meditation notes. I want to quickly explain to you what these terms mean. I have given to you before also. There are 15 indicators which I have put here. I'm not going to the depth of each of them. That will be a separate session, and that will be the entire study of spiritual science. That means these 15 topics, if I can know in myself as Atma, that is the end of my spiritual journey. I don't need to study anymore. And these are the qualities. If I want to remember who I am, it will help you. Number one is Sakshi. Sakshi, I'm giving you the Sanskrit terms because sometimes some people here who have joined the classes, they say we know Sanskrit very well. Of course, there are many, many people who don't know also. Therefore, I'm giving the English meaning also. If you can meditate on the English meaning is also fine. If you can think about it in Sanskrit is also fine. Sakshi means witness of the mind. That means all my thoughts, emotions, I am the Atma, which is observing these emotions. So I distance myself from my emotions as Atma. Second is Chaitanya. Chaitanya means it is the nature of awareness. Awareness means consciousness. Consciousness here is a noun. It is not a verb. Consciousness is an existing substance in the universe. Like you see all the objects, there is something called as the spirit or the consciousness. So the nature is that it makes everything aware. Starting from the body, starting from the mind. From the mind, you come to the body. So when you wake up, the first thing you notice in the morning is you notice your mind first. So once the mind is known, then the next thing which you notice is the body. Once the body is known, oh, then you say, it's already 5 o'clock in the morning. So then you start looking around, then the whole universe appears to you. So the awareness principle, which is there, is called as Chaitanya. Then the third factor is Nityaha. This Chaitanya, this consciousness is always there. That is why we call it as eternal. It's beyond time and it always exists. Does the body exist or the mind exist all the time? In Vedanta, we say it doesn't exist. It only appears. Nirvikara means it is changeless. Consciousness is the only thing which is changeless. Everything else in the world is changing. Body, mind, objects, they are changing. You might say that I see the objects next day also that it doesn't appear to have changed. But what happened to this world in your dream state or in sleep state? It was not there. Therefore, we say it is changing. Ajaha. Ajaha means birthless. Body is born, mind is born. It always exists. Mind exists. It is manifest condition, unmanifest condition. Whereas consciousness is always there. It is formless and it is ajaha. Ajaha means birthless. That is the fifth attribute or indicator. These are all called as indicators for Atma. When I continuously think of these indicators, I come to know that I am that Atma, that pure principle which exists ever. That is why it's called eternal. Muktaha. Mukta means ever free. It is not dependent on the body or mind for its existence. Advaitam. This is a very big principle. I will need to take a separate session on this. Advaita means simply, it means non-dual. That means there is no second consciousness. There's only one consciousness in the universe. Each one of us, like we say, there's only one space. Space is only one in the whole universe. Similar to space is consciousness. It's non-dual. Shanti. The nature of this awareness consciousness principle is absolute peace. It is not relative peace which the mind can enjoy. When the mind is not agitated, we feel that there is some peace in us. But here, the peace of Atma is the nature. That means it is always peaceful. So all of us can boldly claim, I am peaceful Atma. Only when I get identified with the mind, we can say, well, I'm agitated, I'm sorrowful, I'm, so many things come up, I'm dull. All that belongs to the mind. Nirgunam. Nirgunam means it doesn't have any property. It is not a part of anything. Guna means property. What are the properties? The weight, it doesn't have color, it doesn't have taste, it doesn't have size. So these are the properties of matter. But Atma is the spirit. It doesn't have any property. Without Triputi. Triputi means whenever the mind wakes up, immediately there are three things which happen in the mind. One, it becomes the seer. That means the mind becomes the seer. Seer behind the eye, the seer behind the ears, the seer behind it is the perceiver behind all the five sense organs. Then the seen are the world of objects. And the seeing instrument is either the eyes, ears, or nose, or tongue, or so. These are all the organs of knowledge. So the mind is always with Triputi. That means seer, seen, and seeing. Whereas Atma is without this combination of three factors. Then the 11th factor is Atma is Ananda Swarupa. That means it is the nature of infinite happiness because there is no mind in it. It's a mind which causes sorrow. Atma is without a mind. It is without the body, without the universe. Therefore, we say it is pure happiness. All these are factors. If I start contemplating, then I will become pure happiness. I will be without the seer, seen, and instruments. I will be without the properties. I will be Nityaha. I will become eternal. So what happens is my mind dwells on this, and slowly as we think, we become. Ishvara. Ishvara means this Atma is finally the controller of the five elements. Ishvara, generally we say, is God. But this God is also called as Atma because without Atma, there is no God also. The Nirguna form, that means the form of Ishvara, is a relative identified form with gunas. That is what we call as Ishvara. But here Ishvara means Nirguna Ishvara. It means without the formless Ishvara. Then beyond dharma and adharma, that means this Atma in Kathopanishad, it says very clearly that this Atma is without merit and without any cause and effect, dharma and adharma, merit and demerit, cause and effect. That means it's beyond the Karana Sharira. Then it is Sarva Shaktiman. Sarva Shaktiman means it is full of power. So when my mind thinks of this Atma, it gets the power of Atma. You will find that you have become strong in your mind. So when you contemplate on these points, you get some power in you which makes you face this whole universe in a different way. So the sorrows which affected you before will not affect you the same way. And what is the power of this Atma? It can create, it can sustain, it can resolve the whole universe. You meditate on this Atma in this form. Omniscient. It's a consciousness is supposed to be the knowledge principle in your mind. It is not only in your mind, it is there in all the minds. So this is these are the 15 terms which we can use slowly. I've just given you this broad list because many of you have said that they have started contemplating on the Atma, and I want to describe this. So one by one, you can just take only one term and just think about it in your meditation for about 10 minutes every day. Whenever you meditate, you can just take up one point and just brood over it, contemplate on it, and this is how one gets the knowledge of Atma and disidentifies with the mind. Then there is one small example which I wanted to share, which is from the Mundak Upanishad. This is also very useful for meditation. In Mundak Upanishad, there is a verse which I have mentioned here. There are two birds bound to each other in close friendship and perched on the same tree. Look at how the beautiful example is. Two birds in a tree, and they are all in loving relationship with each other. One of them is eating the fruits of the tree, while the other is just looking out without eating. He's just looking on. Now you must have guessed what are these two birds. These two birds are nothing else but the ego and the Atma. It is the ego which is our anatma, one bird. It is always deluded, it is always crying, and it is impotent. Whereas the other bird is the Lord, or you can call it the Atma, and it is only watching, it is only a witness. And these two birds are existing in the same body of in the same tree. The tree is compared to the body. So at any point of time, this Atma is only the bird in a higher branch, that's all. This is how you meditate. This is one of the ways to meditate on Atma, and it tells us that the two birds, one bird can be compared to the Atma. Atma is also called as Kutastha. It is the observer, the higher part. It's also the pure consciousness, changeless, unborn, beyond time, limitless. These are all the 15 factors we just saw. Then what is the Jiva, the soul? It is the ego I, which is also known as the experiencer. That means the Pramata. Which, whenever we say experiencer, it is always with the mind. Then reflected consciousness. Then it is seen by the Sakshi, which is Atma. It is the lower part. These are the two birds. These are the two birds on the same body tree. So this is that ego I, which is a doer, which is an enjoyer. It is limited. It is, it's got 5 koshas, the 3 bodies and 3 states. It's the medium which this Atma operates during the waking and the dream and the sleep state. In some, you can also look at these two birds in another way. That is, when you look at the world, this is when we look at it as an individual. When you look at it as a total, we can call it either Ishvara and Brahman. Ishvara is the whole universe, that means the Prapancha, and Brahman means the pure consciousness at the total level. So this is this is what is one of the ways in which we meditate to know more about Atma. So with this, I have given you more or less all the theoretical part of the meditation. In future sessions, we will take one by one, and then we'll just contemplate on one of the points of regarding Atma. Today's meditation is going to be a very simple meditation. And like I said, that the main thing we are going to meditate is I am the witness of the passive mind condition in sleep, which is called as the ignorant state of the mind. That means Atma is there, the mind is passive. And I am the witness, consciousness, imperishable Atma. This note I have given just for you to practice at your end whenever you want to practice. This is the third exercise in meditation. With this, I close today's session, and then we'll just have a 10-minute practical way to see how meditation works, in which the same way you can try it out at home individually. And after this, we will have a small session about 10-15 minutes or whatever. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Please close your eyes. Remind yourself that for the next 10 minutes, I am going to be only the seeker. I am not going to play any of my roles. I am not going to think as a father, as a mother, as a businessman, as an employee, as a son, as a sister, as a friend. I watch the breath at the tip of my nostrils. The body is breathing. Without my willpower. The body is under the force of nature. The mind is an instrument. I become aware of my mind in the waking state. I'm aware of the emotions and the thoughts. During the waking state. I am not aware of the perceptions in my eyes because my eyes are closed. The sense organs bring the stimuli to the mind. In the waking state. I am the observer of the mind. When I go to bed, my mind goes to passive condition. I remember the passive condition of my sleep. I was the witness. Of the sleep state. I am the awareness principle. Which has not changed at all. Since the birth of this body. Throughout all the waking, dream, and sleep states. I watch the dream. Which is a projection of my mind. I am changeless, Sakshi. I illumine three states of the mind. Sleep state, dream state, and the waking state. The three states are controlled by Ishvara, who controls the nature of five elements. I am the ever illuminating principle. Like the sun. I am Sakshi. I become aware of my breathing again. I become aware of this body. I am the spiritual light. Which is the aware of the body. The mind. And the universe. Asato Ma Sádgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Please rub your hands and gently open your eyes. Any questions from anybody? I have some questions on the notice board. One question is asked by Shama. Oh, there are plenty of questions. Okay, I'll start with Murli's question. In the deep sleep state, our respiratory system is working. Yes, you are right. Mind is not experienced. So we can say that because of Atma, the respiratory and other systems are working. But mind is temporarily absent. Yes, you are also right. Because it is the light of Atma finally is the ultimate cause of this entire universe. So the entire universe is the Jagat Karanam is the Atma. So when you say Jagat, Jagat means the whole universe depends on Atma for its existence and for its functioning. So Murli, you're right. It's mind is temporarily absent, but the respiration is going on. The outside world is also functioning. The 5 elements are also functioning. The air outside is there. The respiratory organs are interacting with the outside prapancha. But what is happening is, I am not, it is under the control of that Atma, but I, the individual, is not there. That individuality comes because of the mind. So that is the most important principle we should understand. When the mind is awake, the individuality is born. The second question is from Shama from London. How the causal body Mula Vidya, the question is, even though, how the causal body Mula Vidya, though it is Atma alone and therefore light, illumination and Vidya state. Question 2 is how, if we drop the body bhava, the default state will be Atma experience, even if it is briefly during the state of meditation. Yes, the Atma experience continues. That means awareness, it is not called as awareness, it is only called as knowledge. The second question, the answer to that is, Atma is a knowledge, it is not an experience. So the knowledge of Atma is there. That is why we call this pure sattvic state. It is a pure state of knowledge, consciousness. Consciousness is also called as jnanam, knowledge. The first question is how the causal body Mula Vidya is born, is it there in Atma alone? Isn't it a Vidya state? Okay, this is her question is that, you see, we say that the causal body is that Karana Sharira and it is illumined by Atma. But is it Vidya or is it Avidya?
Well, the question is, sorry to interrupt, but the question is that isn't the Karana Sharira Atma itself?
No, the Karana Sharira is not Atma. This is very, very important point to understand. Karana Shariram is called as Avidya. Avidya, of course, it exists. Avidya means ignorance. Ignorance, in one way, you can say it is consciousness, but there is a slight difference between consciousness and this Mula Vidya. Mula Vidya is you can say that this is an ignorance which exists, which is a covering, which covers the Atma. And this Mula Vidya has got, this is what is called as the Maya Shakti. Okay. It is not Atma. So that you must distinctly understand. There is the Maya Shakti, which means like our mind. Okay. This Maya Shakti is the substratum for that is the consciousness. It is not the same as consciousness. It is the ignorance of consciousness. There is a difference between consciousness and ignorance of consciousness. So Mula Vidya means it is the ignorance part of consciousness, but anything which is Mula Vidya cannot exist in a table or a chair. It can exist only in a conscious being. That is why we are all having ignorance. We don't know the real nature of ours. Whatever is covering, that covering is called as avidya, which is called as the Mula Vidya. You can call it Mula Vidya, which means when you say Mula Vidya, it means it covers the nature of Atma. Normally, when we say avidya, avidya means it can be ignorance of physics knowledge or medical knowledge, engineering knowledge, computer knowledge. That is all called as general avidya. When we say Mula Vidya, it is a covering of Atma.
Okay, thank you.
This aspect of this is a very deep question. This question is answered in very beautifully in a text called as Naishkarmi Siddhi in chapter 3, which I will be taking up for the Atma Bodha class. Once we finish up, hopefully next week, I will be taking some review of this Naishkarmi Siddhi. Is a textbook. In that, ignorance is discussed in very big detail, and also in another text called as Vichara Sagara. These are two texts which discuss, there are about 40 verses in Vichara Sagara, which is a text, it's in Hindi, which discusses this in greater detail. Then there's a question from Malati. How do we distance ourselves from the mind? Only through meditation? It's through meditation and knowledge of Atma. Both are important. Only by meditation, because meditation, for doing meditation, you must have the knowledge of Atma. Without knowledge of Atma, if you sit down, you will not be able to distinguish between mind and anything else. You will be thinking that the mind is me. So, very important fact is, whatever we are learning in Atma Bodha text, let it trickle down in your own mind in drop by drop, because this knowledge of Atma is not something which comes immediately. It takes time, and the mind needs to dwell on this. Whatever we are learning, ultimately it should not remain in the books or notes or in the website, nothing. Ultimately, it should remain in my mind. Whatever you can absorb, then you sit in meditation and think of the Atma, then you can slowly differentiate between the mind and me. See, one important point you should understand is, there is no distance between Atma and the mind. See, for example, when we look at a mirror, we see our reflection. There is a distance between me, the original face, and the reflection. In the case of the mind and Atma, the locus is the same. That means in the same mind, in the same place where the mind is, you have to locate the Atma. And then you have to disidentify with the mind and say, no, this is the mind. And how do you do it? Only by using the 15 factors which I have put in that note. One factor, very easy factor, is Atma is changeless. Mind is changing. Very important factor. Whenever you try to meditate, you see there is something which is not changing, which is the light in which the thoughts are coming and going. The moment you say this thought, I'm not going to engage with the thought, it will drop. It will go to some other thought. So this is how you slowly create the distance. The question you have asked is asked by every seeker. There is not a single seeker who has not asked this question. But the answer is, it's only by through dwelling on the Atma more and more and getting the knowledge of Atma through different scriptures. You see, what happens is, sometimes one text appeals to your mind. Another text may not appeal. A third text, suddenly it will open up your mind totally. So different people, they enjoy different texts. So as you listen more and more, different ways in which the scriptures, they tell us about the Atma, and slowly you will understand how to differentiate. The last question is, when we take birth, we carry the 17 factors from a previous birth in subtle form. Yes, you're right. What leaves the body is the 17 factors together with the reflected consciousness. So in the next body, we will implant the same powers what we have, this mind along with its pranic ability to breathe, the digestive power, all these powers we carry on and put into the next body. And then the body is only the golakam. Its golakam means it's only a covering. It's only a shell. But the power is Atma. The power belongs to the subtle body. So this subtle body is the power. So you bring in that power into the gross shell, which is the shell in the womb of the mother. The embryo is only the shell. But inside that, this mind goes in with the 17 organs, and then it starts functioning inside that shell. Slowly, the shell grows. After 9 months, the shell comes out. Immediately, all the mind and the perceptions and slowly start seeing the world. And once this happens, what happens is, then the interactions start. So this is how the entire world is experienced. And then what is this world is experiences is only pleasure and pain. There's nothing else. If you look at all the experiences of the world, there is only end result is either I experience pain in the mind or experience pleasure. All experiences, buying a house, buying a car, getting married, getting children, every action of ours, the result, ultimate result is only these two. This is how the rishis have found out that it is not that instrument, I am not that instrument which is undergoing this pain or pleasure. I am the seer of that instrument, experiencer of that instrument. And the moment I come to experience the difference between my mind and me, it's a very, very big, giant leap in evolution of the human body and the mind. And then the last, of course, is the realization, I am not the mind, I am Atma. Mind is there fluctuating in the waking state. It again becomes unmanifest, again goes to sleep, again comes back next day morning. Our whole life of 60, 70, 80 years is nothing but the waking mind, passive mind, dreamful mind. Again, waking mind, passive mind, dreamful mind. This is all our life is all about. But beyond all this, there is something which is called as Atma, which is what we are trying to understand. And the more we contemplate on this aspect, that there is something, because it can't be seen by the eyes, but it can be known from the scriptures. The scriptures are the eyes to see Atma, to experience Atma, to know Atma. Ultimately, they are like when I say scriptures, it means that the words of the scriptures, when I rotate in my mind gets the power from the words. And then ultimately, in the higher texts, I mean, right now we are doing only the lower text, which is like Prakarana Grantha. They are, introductory texts. Later on, we'll be studying Upanishads. Upanishads are the primary source. In that, when we study those texts, there will be some verses which gives the meaning of who we are. And in those verses, there are some verses which are called as Mahavakyas. Mahavakyas means these are special sentences which are there in the scriptures, which tells me directly you are that. So at that time, when the Guru is explaining and says that you are Atma, which is beyond the mind, those sentences I have to contemplate. And then I say to myself, I am Atma. Again and again, let this word come into the mind. I am Atma. I am pure consciousness. You can just say it in English. You don't have to say it in Sanskrit. You can just say it in any language. So whatever languages your mind thinks, in the same way, you can you can tell in your own mind. I see there is one Gustavo Muniz. He is coming from Brazil. For the first time, he is coming and attending this talk from Brazil. It's about it's about 8:45 in Brazil. Now he speaks Portuguese. Now he can also say it in Portuguese. I am that pure consciousness. Now, whenever you say this in the mind, what happens is there is a vritti, there is a thought. This thought, when you raise in your own mind, this thought is very, very powerful. Unlike the thoughts of the world, this thought will illumine the Atma. And when this thought is brought about regularly, and you bring it and tell yourself, I am that pure consciousness. You can say it in Chinese, you can say it in Portuguese, you can say it in Malayalam, you can say it in Hindi, any language doesn't matter. But thought is important. Because what we are doing by bringing this thought is you're wiping away the other thoughts of I am the mind, I am sorry, I'm sick, I'm this. You're wiping away those thoughts off. And the mind, when it understands that it is Atma more and more and brings out this thought, it gains a tremendous amount of power, even to wipe out the vasanas of previous births. Forget about this birth. It can wipe away all the vasanas, impressions which it has gathered. And then what happens is it retains that knowledge. This is what happens at the subconscious level. When this happens, you realize you're not this body or mind, but you are the pure, peaceful, ever peaceful state of Atma. It's not even a state. It is something which you can't be described in words. Shama asked another question. Am I right in understanding that the continued meditative practice, our normal consciousness is transformed in a manner in which we see our usual Vyavaharic life in a different light, which further helps to clean the mirror of the mind? You've just answered my previous question. Okay, fine. So it is actually, what happens is the consciousness is not transformed, but the mind, the reflected consciousness in the mind gets transformed. So what you are saying is right. It's the mind changes. It is the transformation of the mind which happens by this knowledge. And that is the final, it is the final result which we all, once we get it, then it's just remains permanent. And that is what is called as Jivan Mukti. That means I'm free of I'm free from all the other obstacles which remained with me, which was the cause of me not understanding this Atma. See, the obstacles in our mind are nothing but the thoughts in our mind, which is that covering which I was talking about. You know, the thoughts are the major covering. Okay, any other questions? I think I've answered most of the questions. If you have any questions, you can ask me now.
Not a question, but I just tempted to share just an illustration of what we have been talking. For instance, recently, I have just found a very refreshing interest in normal cleaning.
Yes.
You know, very intense cleaning. And while I'm cleaning, the thought is about this is physical. I can see it so easily. It's so easy to actually use various reagents and stuff, and I can clean it. But how am I cleaning my mind? So it's a simultaneously a question, which is just really, that's what I was meaning by how the whole mind is transformed in a manner where you're actually using normal everyday activity to change where you're asking the bigger question at the same time. So that's what I just wanted to illustrate and share.
Yeah, this is a wonderful experience, because this is really what happens, because in between different tasks, one will become aware of the consciousness principle. It will happen. It just happens. That's all. And then the mind keeps on thinking, oh, this is what is the revelation from the scriptures. That's all. It's so simple, because it's talking about me, myself.
Yeah.
And it is this consciousness. Once I come to know, what happens is then I no longer identify with my mind in the same way as I was identifying before.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Okay, that's Ramesh. That's a good remark. Okay, with that we close for the day, and then we'll continue next week. Thank you very much, and good night to everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.